This episode is brought to you by AutoFi.
You can come into this industry with any background. It doesn't matter where you are from. It doesn't matter what language you speak. It doesn't matter what type of education you've had. You can be awesome in this industry, and you can have nearly unlimited potential in this industry if you're willing to work hard.
Hey, gang, welcome to this episode of the Dealer Playbook Podcast, sitting down with the COO of Ziegler Auto Group, Sam Dark. We're going to be talking about not selling cars. Stay tuned. Sam, thanks so much for joining me on the podcast.
It's good to be here. Thanks for having me back. So.
I got to go right into it because, I was prepared to talk about your favorite energy drink flavor. I was prepared to talk about...
we're still going to talk about that. I'm very opinionated on energy drinks. Anybody in the car business needs to be sufficiently caffeinated. So... And for me, coffee's not it. Bang is it. So we'll just get that right out of the way.
And do you have one with you right now? Do we need to do?
I'm in a deficit right now because I do not have one with me. But
I was about to go crack my Monster Peachy Keen, but
nine times out of 10,
I'm not drinking.
9 times out of 10, I would have any one of 100 flavors of Bang. Which, by the way, as an energy drink, it tastes great. It does the job, but they have way too many flavors. I can never remember what flavor I like, and instantly I'll pull one out and remember it's not that. So
you know what? Yeah. There's like a marketing principle in there, which is
there is. Yeah, don't do that.
If you provide like 180 flavors of soft serve ice cream, sounds great on a hot day when you pass the billboard that says it, but not great when you're standing in front of them because you don't.
Right.
You don't know. What option do I make? And kind of an implication there with manufacturers who think that having 72 vehicles in their lineup is the right way to go as well.
Yeah. So among the Bang energy drink flavors, there's black cherry, vanilla, cotton candy, delish, strawberry kiss, purple haze, among 8, I think, others. So there are way too many flavors, and I don't remember which one's my favorite. Yeah.
We could do I can't believe we might have to, Sam, I might have to invite you back and we'll do a segment of energy drink reviews.
Yes. Actually, that would be fun. We should totally do that. And then Bang would win 300 milligrams of caffeine per can. I don't know. There's not many that can top that unless you go to my second favorite, which is 5 Hour Energy. But I'm telling you, man, in the car business, if you don't have the right amount of caffeine, you're not living. So that is correct.
I love it. Yeah. I mean, so I grew up in Canada, and in Canada, very, very real at different times, they will run media campaigns about energy drinks, like almost Surgeon General's warning on a pack of smokes.
Yeah.
And they'll show pictures of like guys that their brains have like fallen out and their skulls. So when I moved to America, I'm like, okay, just limit one energy drink a day. And you pass some guy and he's like, I've had 4. I'm like, it's 7:30 in the morning.
Yeah. By the way, why is it that Canada is so smart about it? And I mean, you know what? In America, it's our right to drink as much as we darn well please. So
well, it's kind of like difference. If you want to kill yourself,
go for
eating, McDonald's every day and this and that. That's your right, because that's how we started. It was like, I'm going to plant my flag in the ground, and this is my ground.
Yes.
I don't know. You kind of look at the history of Canada, and fundamentally, I think it stems from how the two countries were founded. I mean, America founded on the rights and freedoms and pursuit of happiness.
The American dream, man.
The American dream.
You can come here from anywhere and do anything, and no other country makes that same promise, right?
No, I'm pretty sure Canada started by like a French king saying, go over there and get some beaver pelts for us.
Yes. Canada is, hey, come here because we're not America, right? Oh, no, that's terrible. You're going to have Canadian haters. I'm glad you're Canadian because we don't want to create haters across the world. We love them all.
At the end of the day, I kind of take that risk upon myself knowing that I defected and moved out.
Okay.
But I mean, people knew I married an American all those years ago. So it was bound to happen at some point or another. I love Canada.
You and Justin Bieber. So
I love Canada. I love freedom too. So it's one of those things. But they're the quiet neighbor upstairs. So we all like to have a quiet neighbor upstairs.
Right.
Fascinating. We need to do an energy drink.
All right,
episode,
we're doing it.
Like
it's
the
a
hot
placeholder,
wings, but there'll just be little, Dixie cups of different flavors, and we'll, as we do the interview, I should
along with the appropriate general surgeon warning as may apply. So, in fact, that's what we should do. We should do different energy drinks along with the Canadian warnings that come along with those drinks.
I love it. You said something before we got into it that I thought was so fascinating. It resonates with me deeply, which is I've maintained this for years, Sam. If I were to go to my 11-year-old, who, when I first started talking about this, was a 6-year-old, and said, "What do car dealers do?" she would look at me with like, "Really, Dad? Do you always ask dumb questions?" Because I've always maintained everybody knows what a car dealership does. Everyone knows how a car dealership makes money and what they transact.
Yeah.
What they don't know is what makes you different, what makes you unique, what makes you relatable. And you said something, and I wrote it down. You said, we love, at Ziegler, we love talking about everything other than selling cars.
Well, so sometimes on social media, if you go out and you see what's out there on us, you're going to see our employees, all 2,700-ish, living their best life. And that's a core belief at the Ziegler Auto Group, started by Harold Ziegler in the 1970s and just blown up by Aaron Ziegler ever since. And it is, it's the Virgin Airways. What was it? Richard Branson, I think he said it, right? Like, if you treat your employees well, everything else falls in line. And that's not a direct quote, but it's the best I can come up with without my caffeine this morning. But he talks about how, we believe in the automotive industry. This is the last great American industry, right? You can come into this industry with any background. It doesn't matter where you are from. It doesn't matter what language you speak. It doesn't matter what type of education you've had. You can be awesome in this industry, and you can have nearly unlimited potential in this industry if you're willing to work hard. And so we really focus on, hey, what are our employees up to? How are they how are they living their best life impacting others? So you go to our social media platforms. I don't care if it's LinkedIn, Facebook, TikTok, Instagram, even what's the platform? I can't remember it. Pinterest. And you will see Ziegler Auto Group employees living their best life. We celebrate together. We work together. We live together. And so you don't see as much car payments. You see a heck of a lot more living. And I think that resonates somehow with our core human desire and need to make a difference, to be part of something greater than ourselves, and to lead a great life. And Ziegler Auto Group employees do that.
I want to keep going down this vein, but I have an intermediate question here in the middle, which is, especially when it comes to digital, you represent so many different brands and OEMs, and I think a lot of dealers feel the pressure to be like, well, if I'm doing something digital, I need to have it co-opable, which means pricing, which means all of these sorts of things.
Well, we do all that too, by the way. I don't want to create that illusion, but yes, go ahead.
Yeah. And it's in that context, how do you determine the right balance? Because it's so easy to just go to the mundane and like picture price, payment, versus being intentional about getting 2,700 people comfortable showing who they really are. Hey, I hope you're enjoying this episode of the Dealer Playbook. And before we hop back in, I want to thank today's sponsor, AutoFi. AutoFi helps dealers like you sell smarter, not harder, on your dealership website and now in your showroom too. AutoFi solves the everyday problems dealers actually face, like bottlenecks at the sales desk, customer distrust, and decision overload. Their all-new showroom solution includes deal estimation, desking, lender routing, and an F&I menu, all in one powerful platform. Dealerships with AutoFi sell cars faster, with higher satisfaction, and more profit. In fact, dealers make an average of $641 higher back-end PVR on AutoFi deals versus their non-AutoFi deals. Go to autofi.com/dealer playbook and start selling smarter today. All right, let's hop back into this episode.
So 2 weeks ago, I was in Indianapolis, and I was at a Subaru meeting for new retailers. So I'm the executive manager of one of our Subaru stores, and I just hadn't been to this kind of induction training. And Subaru is awesome because Subaru has this theory, and it's something I think we've lived for decades at the Ziegler Auto Group, that, you know, they don't focus on that car payment. They focus on employees. They focus on customers, the love promise, animals, and the different things that are important to them and their employees. And that started in the early 2000s for them. And their rise has been meteoric. And you identify with them as a brand because of it. There are airlines that have done that. I don't want to say Southwest because, you know, they're in the doghouse after not bringing people to grandma's house two Christmases ago, right? But there are other brands. Apple, another, is a great brand that doesn't focus as much on what they do, but why they do it and how they do it and how they're making a difference in the world. So how to strike that balance between co-op? I mean, one of the great things about us as an auto group is we fully empower each one of our general managers to make individual decisions for their stores. So they take care of all that, and they're going to make sure that they serve and are consistent with the brands they represent. You know, it's a great discussion with Subaru because it's perfectly aligned. It's aligned with all of our brands. I'm thinking about, you know, all the different brands we have as it relates to co-op and whatnot. And so I don't know there's a balanced decision necessarily to be made, as much as, you know, in addition, let's focus on highlighting and let's focus on celebrating our employees, our employee experience,
right?
And really make sure that, you know, as our employees have all the tools they need to become their best selves, that will guarantee that our customers have a great experience as well. So it's not only on social and in other places. I mean, we have training opportunities and development opportunities that I would argue no other auto groups on planet Earth have. You know, we've got a training platform where, you know, we've recently had service writers who've said, hey, you know what? I like being a service writer and writing up customers as they come through the door. But you know what? I'd really like to learn how to turn a wrench. I want to become a technician. And, you know, we're working so hard in the auto industry trying to find anybody out there that wants a job that's not currently employed as a tech. Well, you and I both know if you're a good tech, you have a great job, you're fully employed. And so we actually have a path where it's like, hey, that service writer that says, you know what, I don't know how to change my own oil right now, but I would love to become a tech. We can teach that. And there's a course where that service writer over a period of time can go through this training, learn that skill, and actually get some pretty cool stuff on the other side of it, and become a tech. I mean, why not give employees the opportunity to progress and advance within our own group? Why, you know, I don't know why it is in the auto industry we support this idea of churn, right? Hey, he was a finance manager at this store, and now he's at that store, and now he might want to come back. Let's create a lifelong love affair with every single employee and celebrate what they have to bring and help them to become their best selves, no matter how long it takes. And let's keep them. And if that means going from, we had one salesperson who was a sales guy at our Subaru store. We have a process at Subaru where they get a second delivery. Every single customer gets the opportunity to come back in and get a redelivery and get explained all the technology that goes on in vehicles. Well, this sales guy's like, you know what? I like sales. I'm successful. I know I make, good money. But what I'd really like to do is not focus on the sale. I'd really love to focus on how a customer syncs their Bluetooth and how they work the GPS. And the leadership, we were like, A, how cool is it that he's willing to raise his hand and say, hey, pick me for this? And B, he might be the best thing that ever came along, because that's a tough job to hire for. Like, where do you find that skill set? Right. Can I tell you, he's freaking awesome at it. And he's found his calling and he loves it. So, like, I think that's at the core of what I'm describing here, is an opportunity to let people become their best selves and then celebrate them for it, right? Not everybody needs to be. I've said this in many places. So many people raise their hand. They're like, hey, I want to become a GM. I want check signing authority. I want to hire, fire, all that stuff. There are some people that are awesome people that love to wash cars.
Yeah.
And they love seeing a clean windshield. Let's celebrate them. Let's give them a path to it, help them to become their best selves. So I went on a rant.
By the way, when you see me looking down, it's, when you see me looking down, there's a couple of things I want to unpack here. First, I have to touch on it because I'm a marketer at heart. I love marketing, and I love what moves people to action. And you said, I mean, the Subaru thing to me is so brilliant. You said, that they focus on the love promise and animals. And immediately I thought, I don't think I've ever seen a Subaru without a big dog in the back.
I know.
And that connected, and it found an audience. And now it's like Subarus are known for people who love to hike and big dogs. And that's just the way it is. And I'm like, see the brilliance of talking about anything other than, oh, this car has advanced Bluetooth functionality.
It's like Bluetooth. They all have it. Yeah.
Hey, did you know our cars have 4 wheels? It's like people don't, that's not sexy to anybody. It's not relatable, but
let's focus on the separator. Yeah.
It's not a separator. Then this second thing I wrote down as you were speaking, which is talking about culture is not culture.
No.
And that's what we're all doing. You go to the conferences, I go to the conferences. There's always going to be a culture talk.
Yeah.
And it is talk about culture with no conveyance of, well, here's what I mean by that. Here's how I build culture. You wrote, and I feel like this is shirt worthy, a lifelong love affair, I think is such powerful words, because in your explanation about growth opportunities and placement opportunities and training to acquire a new skill and maybe find a new career path inside the organization. Yeah. Those are the actions that support what a culture becomes.
I love when you say that, because how many meetings have you been to where an organization is trying to tout a culture, they're trying to force a culture, and you're like, you know what you're talking about is complete BS, because you guys don't do any of that. Like, you hired a dude that wrote a book, and like, you don't even follow what that book says, right? And I think it's pretty cool at our group, because we'll have a lot of different people come in. We try to pull things out of those. And to your point, culture is ideas executed, and execution is the difference between just saying something and then being something. And, culture, you start talking about it, it slips through your fingers. You start focusing on it, you lose it. You do the things to build it, and then you become it. And whether you're talking about great football coaches that have done that, or you're talking about great business leaders that have advocated it, or going back to the Subaru example, since I was so recently immersed in it, like, you go back to Subaru, like, again, whether it's an NADA or their national business meeting, like 90% of that doggone meeting is living what they're saying. And some people are kind of like, wait, I just heard you guys celebrate like a donation to, the Humane Society or the national parks or whatever for the last hour. And then you're like, wait, actually, that's exactly what they should be doing, right? They brought up a retailer who, I love this guy. I'm going to go visit him with the Finley Auto Group in Las Vegas. They're the general manager of this store in Las Vegas, by the way, one of the most cutthroat, most difficult marketplaces. I mean, they're killing people in Las Vegas. This guy could not be more culture, love promise, Subaru way. Like, he is just all in, and they crush it out there on that. And I think there's something at the heart of every employee that, again, wanting to be part of something, want to be part of something bigger, that resonates with that. And I think they flock towards it, whether you're in Vegas or Kalamazoo, Michigan, or wherever you are. So,
and you can start messy. I'm sure, you brought up Harold and Aaron.
Yeah.
I've never met them, but I'm sure in the beginning they were like, just do something. Like,
well, So again, I wasn't here in the beginning. I've been part of this group now for a while. At first as a vendor, and now as in my current role. But I saw initially a super high focus on execution and people and doing the right thing, which everybody's. One of my favorite. Somebody needs to make a commercial one day where it's like, at XYZ Auto, we do the wrong thing, right? Because everybody says we do the right thing. Like, what's the counter to that? I don't think anybody has made that commercial, but people do that, right? And I think over time it evolved where, again, going back to the early 2000s, as Aaron just blew this organization up. Currently 41 rooftops, 4 states, 2,700 employees, over $2 billion in sales. Like, I think somewhere in that path to growth, it kind of all came together. These different elements: Ziegler University, our Ziegler Speaker Series, our GM Best Practice Sessions. I mean, it all kind of gelled to create this culture, and it's an evolution. It's not, hey, we're done. We've, I think. Wait, did you say it? We were talking earlier, and somebody was talking about, climbing a mountain and being there.
Yeah.
Like, this is not a deal where it's like, hey, we've succeeded, now we can go find something else. It's not Forrest Gump reaching the end of the pier after having run a really long distance. Like, it's a journey. It's a becoming. Yep. It's a process.
So I love that you're making the point of being on the right road, embracing the journey, the messiness of building a culture, that there's no final destination, that it's a work in progress. And I often think about this concept of how people get fixated on whether or not they're ever going to make it to the end of the road. They get fixated on the length of the road or the journey, rather than wondering, am I on the right road to begin with? What do you say to people that maybe within your organization are like, is there ever an end to this? I'm sure, especially in the black and white world of executive meetings and KPIs and reporting and one-to-one, like the action resulted in this effect. What do you say to help reconcile this idea of, hey, get excited that this journey is never over. We're always going to be building a culture here.
Well, I mean, I think a big part of that answer goes back to, Aaron Ziegler, who owns the company, who's just blown it up. Like, he guides that, he leads it, he's the visionary behind it. And he's done an incredible job of focusing on individual accountability, right? And so you talk about sitting in meetings and KPIs, having difficult conversations. Like, those conversations are empowering people to become their best self. Those conversations are the right people in the right place. And I think when you have those types of conversations, are you in the right place? Are you doing the right thing? Do you know your job? Do you have all the resources to do that job? Then culture and that journey becomes secondary. I walked into a dealership that has nothing to do with our auto group recently, and there is evidence that there's no attempt to even have culture. So you walk into a Ziegler locker room and there's words on the wall. You can see them behind me here in the studio, words that are important and meaningful to us that reflect and represent our culture. And you can ask a Ziegler employee, what do these words mean? And they'll share those with you, and they motivate and they excite and they get you going. Well, this other place I was at recently, they had none of that. And I actually questioned them on it. And it was kind of like, well, we don't really know how to do it. We don't know where to begin. We don't really know what to do. And to your point, maybe the road seems so long that it's like, hey, what's the point of even taking it? And,
right.
I think we mentioned earlier, Richard Branson's quote, if you don't train your employees, who cares if they go anywhere? You don't want them to stay, right? Like, if you don't have a culture that, again, emphasizes that importance of individual responsibility and empowerment, and how do we get people in the right place, and how do we give them opportunities to grow and develop over time? What's the point of what we do, right? Like, I think we talked, like, it's almost an employee bill of rights now. Money's one thing, but it's almost an employee bill of rights that as an organization, as an employer, as a place where they come and give most of their time, because that's the fact. Most employees working full-time spend more time here than doing anything else, that they're able to grow and develop, they're able to contribute and give back in some way, and they're able to have the potential to make an impact and change the world in their version of the world. And culture allows you to do that over time. And so I don't know, as you described that, like somebody getting fixated on the end and the beginning and how to do it, like, those are all the wrong questions. And they even get me a little passionate, excited, and frustrated for anybody that's going through that, because it's like, don't ask that question. Ask, what is the cost of not committing to that journey, right? Whatever that is. And every organization's culture is different, right? Like, not every organization is going to look like Ziegler. The
the culture that we have has gotten us accolades on Glassdoor and gotten us accolades in several different places. But everybody's cultural journey is going to look different, I would suppose. But yeah, I don't know if that answers your question. That was a lot.
No, I love it.
You got me excited there, man.
Yeah, I love it because it's the simplicity of, especially I find humor in this. We're an industry that tends to be fixated on cost and expense and money. Well, that is the best question. What's the cost of not building a culture? I got two more questions. These ones are actually from listeners of the podcast.
Ooh.
I put a post out. I said, hey, I'm interviewing Sam Dark, CEO of Ziegler Auto Group. Yeah. What would you ask him? And
fun.
This one was interesting. This one got me even thinking. Brad asks, what is your favorite failure?
Favorite failure? That's fascinating. Huh.
I know that was kind of my initial response.
So I'll tell you, I had a 17-year career with an incredible company prior to coming to Ziegler. And I applied for a promotion, an executive job. And man, I'll tell you, I don't know if you've ever felt like you were just born to do something. Like like all the experience that you'd ever had in the world up to that moment just led to this 1 minute in time where the position or the need intersected with background and ability.
Right.
And I was on fire. I went after that opportunity with this large company after a 17-year career with everything I had. I threw everything at it. And guess what? They said no. And that was a devastating failure. Like I had been to, their cultural award recognition program was called President's Club. And I had, I was either the number 1 or number 2 most President's Club. I mean, like I'd just done all the things. I checked all the boxes. I just felt like this was mine not to get, and I didn't get it. And I was devastated. I was frustrated. And ultimately that led me to where I am today. And how many people have that story where it's like, hey, I thought one path would for sure be the path and it would lead me in the direction that I need to go to have, what you want, and only to find out that there's a different path. And I can't imagine having taken that other path. Like the world would look very different. I mean, I wouldn't be on this podcast. Aaron Ziegler is, by the way, when I came to him and I said, hey, I got an idea. How about as a car group, we have a podcast and we do it once a week and we put shorts on our website. Like 99% of the auto groups in the world would be like, you're out of your ever-loving mind. Don't do it. Like there's too much risk. You're going to say something. You'll trigger something. It'll be terrible. And instead he said, you know what? We've done the F&I side of the job well. We've done the operations side of the job well. Let's give this other thing a try. And we've now seen other auto groups trying to do it. And so I'm grateful because I've had the opportunity to expand talents that I didn't even know existed, in benefit in areas I didn't even know I could benefit. And it never would have happened had I not been told no. So to that company, thank you, because it ended up being a huge positive. But in the moment, it felt like a devastating and crushing failure.
It was spear to the heart.
It what? It was. Can you still see it? I was like, oh.
It's interesting though. Along those lines, I was sitting in a room with some of our investors at a SODU, and we were having a real interesting, candid conversation. And we were talking about these types of things, the war wounds that we gather, the cuts and all the things. And a profound statement, and what you just said made me think of it, which is the thing about wounds is that they will heal.
Interesting.
The scar will be there as you took your stripes, but you never know. Like so many of our lives, with the right perspective, which I sense from you is, but it was a blessing. That was a course shift for me that needed to happen.
Yeah.
For me to experience what I'm experieing. Okay.
I object though too, because I would say some wounds you don't even want to heal, right? There are some things in life that give you motivation, that give you power, that feed you, that make you more passionate about what you do. I mean, me in this automotive space, for me, I can't remember if we talked about it earlier or not, but as a kid, I came into the car business as a high school kid, and I struggled mightily as a young kid and ended up really loving car sales. And the wounds that kind of, what you call wounds just sounds so, I don't know if that's like those moments that kind of put me on this path and in that direction. I would never want to quote unquote heal, because you gain power from it. So anyway, yeah.
Ooh. We're going to have you back on and talk about just that one thing. Okay. Second to last question.
Yeah.
From Colby. What do people misunderstand about you the most?
Oh, about me personally, or about our organization, or about what?
However you want to take it. He didn't qualify it. He just said, what do people misunderstand about you the most?
Wow.
I'll give you one of mine. I think people mistake my kindness for naivete or ignorance.
That's good. That's good. I could probably go down that road a little bit. I seem pretty laid back and pretty, I don't know. I think a lot of times people think they have you figured out. And in our world, you don't want to be a flat character that people can figure out. And so there's greatness in always developing and expanding yourself and continuing to improve yourself, so that, so I had Tom Izzo on the show. I'll share this. I had Tom Izzo on our Driving Vision podcast, and Tom Izzo was like, I'm like, dude, you've been an NCAA basketball coach forever. Like, what's your biggest struggle? And he's like, it's reinventing myself. He's like, I'm always having to reinvent. He's like, that's a reality for my basketball players. It's a reality for me. I'm paraphrasing, of course, because I don't have the direct quote. It was a while ago, but he's like, I'm always innovating and reinventing. He's like, Sam, you and Ziegler, Aaron was here as well. You have this podcast. He's like, you started it with a mic in my office and like equipment. Then we built this studio. Like you've got to evolve. Otherwise, other people are going to pass you. And maybe that's something that sometimes people may mistake, is people get to know you in a moment in time, and then they assume that's the way you always were and always will be. And haven't helped anybody for who that's true, because one of the great things about life is our ability to learn, to grow, and to give back in interesting ways. So I don't know. That's probably the best answer without.
Yeah, that's a great answer. I love it. And a word of encouragement and caution. Don't stay where you are, evolve. And also don't stay where you are, evolve.
I
love it. That's great. Man, I can't tell you how much I appreciate you joining me. I thoroughly enjoyed this conversation. Incredibly helpful. I took several pages of notes because that's just what I do. How can those listening and watching, obviously you have a podcast, but how can those listening and watching get in touch with you and connect?
So that's interesting. So we have the Driving Vision podcast. That's our podcast externally. You can go to any of our social media sites. I mean, I'm on LinkedIn. LinkedIn is a terrible place to send messages because I get a ton of them. And my email address, let's see, what is the best way? It's probably on LinkedIn, I would imagine, through messaging. I mean, I look at it, and then we've got a team that works on that as well.
Yeah.
So
you saw mine. Yeah. This is how this all happened. So I'm grateful for that.
All right. So here's the deal, though. I was on yours. You got to come on my show now.
I would love to. I would absolutely love to. Yeah. All right. That would be my honor to join you on that show.
Thank you.
Sam Dark, thank you so much for joining me on the Dealer Playbook Podcast.
Thank you.
Hey, thanks for listening to the Dealer Playbook Podcast. If you enjoyed tuning in, please subscribe, share, and hit that like button. You can also join us and the DPB community on social media. Check back next week for a new Dealer Playbook episode. Thanks so much for joining.